Let's talk about blood types. If you needed blood, the universal donor is O negative. If you were a recipient, the universal recipient is AB positive. How do we come up with this? Well, let's start with just understanding what blood is. There's 4 types of tissues that we find in the body: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. When we look at connective, there's 3 types: connective tissue proper, there's supporting, and then there's fluid. Our 2 types of fluid are blood and lymph. So when we talk about blood and lymph, it's a connective tissue, which means they're specialized cells, which we call formed elements when we look at blood, that has a matrix. And within that matrix, we call that the plasma. So within the plasma, we see antibodies, and we can start to describe blood types based on their antigens that are on the blood cells, erythrocytes, and then what we see in the actual plasma, which are the antibodies. And that gives us an idea: can I donate, can I receive? And this is going back to the early 1900s, because we started to figure out we can give people blood, but sometimes there's reactions to it that can be problematic. So we have to make sure the person is receiving the right blood. So we describe this in an ABO system. So ABO. So we put it together and we start with A. So A, what that means is there's antigens or proteins on the cell. So antigens are markers on the cells. Within that, of the plasma, the water of the blood, I have anti-B antibodies. So when I look at this, I'm describing what are the antigens on the cells. And then it's the opposite. I have anti-B antibodies in the plasma. So that's A. For B, I have B antigens. So we said A has A antigens, B has B antigens on the cells, so those markers on the cells. Within the plasma, I have anti-A, so it's the opposite of A and B. But then we combine them and we say, well, there's A and B, and we say, okay, well, A and B, it has neither of the anti-A or the anti-B because it has both A and B antigens. So as we describe, they can be a little confusing. A has antigens on it that are A antigens. B has B antigens, and then AB has both A and B antigens. When we talk about O, as we describe O has neither A or B antigens. And so we look at this because it has both anti-A and anti-B, and that's in the plasma. That could be a little confusing, so I just remembered it as the A, B, and AB is describing the antigens that are on it. So A has A antigens, B has B antigens, AB has both A and B antigens, and then O has neither A or B. And so that's where we start to describe that we look at antigens and antibodies. So then we add to it, so we have 4 types, A, B, O, and AB. Then we add what's called an Rh factor. Rh factor is a protein that's present on the surface of red blood cells or erythrocytes. If it's present, you're positive. If it's not present, then you're negative. So now we have 8 types because we can combine them to say we have A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, and so forth. Most people are Rh positive, so most people are positive. O positive is actually the most common. It's about 1/3 of the population. So when we look at this, when we describe how we can donate some of these, the negative can only receive the negative. But the positive, we've determined, can receive both positive and negative. And again, it's based on the antigens and the antibodies. So we describe this when we look at what's a universal donor, it's because there's no antigens for an O negative. So there's no antigens on the body to attack it because we said O has neither A nor B, and then the negative can receive the negative, but it's the donor because there's no other antigens on it. So we call that, and it's really rare, so we often see that more from the medical field that we store this because it's less than 10% of the population. So we go back to understanding why do we describe this AB, ABO. We've identified the proteins on the cell surfaces, but also what's in the plasma. And from that, we can determine, okay, so O negative is our universal donor. We look at AB positive, it's the universal recipient because it has all of the antigens. So that can be confusing, but it just helps us to understand based on what our body recognizes as it's trying to defend itself, that we have different types of blood types, and then adding a protein to it that we call the Rh factor. And it helps to understand that most people are going to be Rh positive versus negative can only receive the negative. So this is blood types, and we're understanding how do we put this together for donation of blood when you need it.